right. Hey, welcome. We are live again here with Kevin Thistle, the real estate appraiser. And typically my go-to when I've got questions around value, right? Sometimes properties are very easy to figure out what the value is, right? It's a subdivision. They built a lot of these homes. It's a townhome, and three exact same models have sold before. But not every home is cookie cutter in that way. So typically, for the more challenging properties, I reach out to Kevin to just pick somebody else's brain, especially as we look at, what is happening with real estate in that particular piece. So with that, Kevin, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you and why we're chatting with you today. What makes you the real estate expert when it comes to appraisals?
Maybe because I'm just old. I don't know. But I've been getting a lot of phone calls lately from the realtors that I talk to confirm sales and physical data. And when I get done with that, I'm very much appreciative. And I say, if I can return the favor, give me a call. And because we're in pretty much of an extreme seller's market right now, the contracts that you realtors write, I believe 99% of them are probably market, but closed sales are lagging indicators. And I had a trainee, ask me a few weeks ago. She says, "How can you get a contract that's so overpriced and it's not market value?" And I asked her, I said, "Well, what's market value? What determines market value?" And she goes, supply and demand and, that kind of stuff. And I said, well, the best data that you can have are those pending sales, those contracts that just went under, that just got signed yesterday, last week, a couple of weeks ago, and where they had multiple offers, they had a lot of showing, strong demand. And she goes, "Yeah, but that one sold for 10 grand over or 50 grand over. How can that be?" I said, "Because the market's changing right in front of our face. And the people they're willing to pay that. And you got little bitty supply and a whole big strong demand. And that's what it is. And unless you got somebody that's weird, maybe they were born in the house or it's the feng shui that they like, or or they're crooked and they're doing something else about it. That's pretty much it. Now, unfortunately, too many appraisers out there are punching a clock, and it's just like, okay, I got 4 hours or 6 hours to do this, and I don't know how they do it in 4 hours, especially do it right. And they run in, they run out, and they throw the data in there, and they come up at a preconceived number, and they say, nope, the realtors were wrong. Those 10 contracts, those people with real money, they didn't know what they were talking about. Well, isn't that silly?
Yeah. Well, you and I had this conversation a couple times recently, and this was actually very kind of personal for me because you and I called. We had an appraisal done on our refinance, right? Not a home sale. There weren't buyers throwing money at it. We were refinancing. And 2 years ago, we bought the home, and the market's been very strong over the last 2 years, appreciating at a good rate.
Yep.
The value came back, he determined, was $9,000 more than we paid for it. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not unhappy with the fact that it's worth more than I paid for it, yet the market will bring a significantly higher amount than what the appraisal came from. And honestly, I've had a lot of clients reaching out to me saying, "Hey, our appraisal came in really low on this refinance. Can you help?" Right. So on refinances, on purchases, right, how is it that we can help influence the appraiser if that value doesn't come in low? Because Kevin, to your point, value is only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Right. That's exactly right. And that's what the MLS shows you. Every one of those sales was exposed to the market for a period of time, and if the agent was fortunate enough or skilled enough, they got it right. But nowadays, I mean, you put it in what you think you can support based on those lagging indicators of closed sales. And, it's like, well, what do we do if somebody offers us way more? Do we tell them no? Well, I know what you're doing, and I know what some of the other, better agents are doing. They're also building in those appraisal gap clauses.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a lagging indicator gap clause or whatever you want to call it. Now, in your case, I know that you pulled a bunch of data for the neighborhood, and I know that really sharp gal that you work with land title, she pulled a bunch of information based on zip codes and that kind of stuff, and that very general information showed that the market, that broader market showed more improvement than just $9,000, which is probably, what was that, 2-3% or something?
It's a very small percentage overall. When last year alone, we're seeing detached homes appreciate up over 15% by themselves, right? Specifically in certain zip codes, and ours being one of those that's in high demand, right?
Right, exactly right. Now, what is helpful for many of your agents or anyone else, there are lots of sources out there for market indices. Whether it's really broad and whether it comes from a federal agency or from through zip codes or some general information, that gives you an idea of where you are. But the more specific you want to be, you want to get as much data as you can from the last 12 months. Okay? And don't be so specific as far as, well, we have 5 bedrooms and they have 4. No, focus in on square footage. And it'd be ideal if you could get something within 5 or 10%. But what an appraiser is going to do, they typically in a tract development kind of thing, like where you live, 20% bigger, 20% smaller of your gross living area. That's not including the basement. You do your search that way. Also, the size of your garage. Almost all the new stuff, everybody has a garage, but you've got a walkout basement that backs to a green belt and has the advantage across from that green belt is school property, and which provides a very nice open view for you. Okay, now sometimes that's a little harder to quantify, but you can look at it and go, wow, the quality of that's really good. I mean, so you can go, it's either really good or it's not. Yours is really good, okay? So yeah, you can get that direction. So you get all your data together without being too specific, okay? Like for yours, I probably put attached garage 2+, okay? So that'll include garages that are 2. You've got a 2-car cross with an additional tandem, so you got a 3-car tandem. But a typical buyer would also consider a 2-car or a 4-car. I mean, I'd be happy to get extra garage space, but what they're really looking for is number of bedrooms, baths, overall condition, and same general age. The advantage of getting an existing home like yours that's only 2 years old is that all the construction on your street is finished. The yard's in. You've already got a deck. People don't have to mess around with that stuff, and they can move in next month. As soon as they close, they can move in. Where new construction, you wait 3 months or 6 months or longer. So there is an advantage. But after you've done your research in the MLS, you can print out different reports. And there's a market condition form. It's called the 1004 MC. Okay. 1004 MC for market condition, and it'll show you a grid that they did, or let's say a table. And the first column is the first 6 months, and the second column is the next quarter, and the last one is the most recent quarter. Okay, and it will compare sale prices, and it will compare your list price to sale price, which is a little misleading because if a property's been on the market for a while, the realtor's going to change his list price, and then they do it on the new list price. It's not so much on the original list price.
Yeah.
Right? But it still gives you an idea of direction and what's going on and how many days on the market and that kind of a thing. And the reason that this is a good tool is because it's not general by zip code anymore. It's very specific in your neighborhood or greater market. And your market isn't always just your neighborhood. Your market may be your development plus the next one down the street that have similar access, to highways, to shopping, to all sorts of different things, similar marketability, similar appeal kind of a thing. So Fannie Mae likes for you to stay within a mile if you're in Denver in an urban environment, in a city environment. And you generally don't have to go out further than that. But if you're in the suburbs, like you and your family are, you can go out as far as 3 miles, and Fannie Mae says that that's okay, but you have to explain it. Yeah. Well, what I try to do is to do what a typical buyer would do. So if there's a lack of inventory, then I would want to expand my search area. But if I got a bunch of data there, then I don't need to expand my search area unless, nope, that's not the price I want. I want to expand it and find something else, but that's the wrong way to do it. That's dishonest. Okay. But from a realtor's perspective, to do all that homework ahead of time, you're preparing yourself for when that appraiser comes in. And I'm a firm believer, your job is to meet that appraiser at the property. Now, you never tell them, I need $1 million to make this work, or I need 500 grand to make this work. Okay. That's not kosher. And he didn't want to hear it anyhow.
Of course not.
Right. And what just about every other realtor will do is provide a bunch of sales. Well, I'm going to pull up the same sales that you're going to pull up, but I was taught years ago, take anything that they want to give you, because maybe you missed something, or maybe you're not sure. I don't look at it as pressure with them saying, I've got to hit this number. And quite frankly, I don't care. I'm too old to care. Okay. But the most important thing that a good listing agent can do is to report the activity he had on the property. Well, the house was on the market for 9 days, or was on the market for 4 days. And we had 60 showings, which resulted in 10 offers. All of them were above asking or above list price. And they ranged from $555 to $625. Okay. And there were different things in there. Some had a contingency. Some of them needed to have time, delayed occupancy, to give the seller time to find a new home, those kind of things. But that's the most current data. And that's data that the appraiser can't find in the MLS.
Yep.
And in your case, Matt, where it was just a refinance, we looked over that appraisal, and I believe there were some pending sales in that appraisal, but that appraiser didn't give hardly any weight to those. Even at the very least, what those told them was what the market conditions were right now, because you can get all those indices, whether they're general or that 1004 MC form, and they're showing you direction that they're going up. Okay. But then you're showing the most current data for the directly comparable properties that you have. And it's like going, there's a 5% increase over asking, and it's even higher than what the settled sales were. So you have to make sense of that. Now, some of those appraisers, they don't care, which is absolutely flat out wrong. And we read what your appraiser said, and that guy was an idiot. Okay. And he can call me and I'll school him if he wants. But you did your homework, but he totally neglected his responsibility to explain what was going on.
Well,
And
yeah,
you know,
want to create some context around this, right? And we're going to dive down into this appraisal report a little bit to put specifics to it. So I pulled it up here, and we'll share that. So one, let's look at what we can do on the front end of it. So one, if you're buying a home or you're selling a home, let's have a conversation with your agent about prepping and providing information, context, really for the appraiser. And it is not just a list of the homes that sold, because they're probably going to pull those same homes. But it is what was the activity, what was the conditions of the market right at that moment that caused whatever the offer price is. And if you're a buyer's agent, maybe we take that out of the appraiser's hands, and you're writing a guarantee for cash, which, Kevin, right, is literally an agreement to pay more than the property is worth, right?
right.
Now, so that's an option, and listing agents on the same side. So buyers, be prepared for that. If you're selling a home, right, a conversation to have. Now, if you're refinancing, to reach out and connect with your real estate agent. Hopefully that's me. If you're watching my Facebook Live or my YouTube channel, I'm hoping that it's me. Even if you didn't buy it from me, if you're reaching out to me looking for help, happy to help, right? But providing some information so that you can provide it to the appraiser when they come through. Now, Kevin, as a homeowner, when I'm meeting the appraiser, I'm not going to hand them a list and say, hey, my appraiser told me that my home is worth $550,000, and here's what they gave. Because a lot of appraisers, just like everybody else, some of them have a little bit of an ego and don't like being told what the market is,
Right.
because their job is to interpret the market, right? So if I were to meet you at my house, right, you're coming out to appraise, what would you like me to say, or how should I convey that information if I've done my research or I've had my real estate agent do my research, and I'm providing specifically when it comes to a refinance scenario?
You can go ahead and provide that market data, but I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't lead off with that. Okay, like in baseball, you may not start off with that slider. Maybe you wait for a full count. Okay, because if you start off with that, if you start off being too aggressive with the appraiser, you're going to turn them off and they're not going to listen.
Yeah.
If you have a new furnace, a new water heater, new flooring, new roof because of a hailstorm, anything at all like that, that someone may not be able to pick up and know. So start off by telling them what they don't know and may not pick up. Okay. I would also note what time they show up and what time they leave. If they spend 10 minutes in there, they missed everything. Okay. A lot of us like to start in the basement, and we start looking at the water heater and the furnace. Now, the water heater will have a manufacture date on it. It might be 2019, which means maybe it was installed in 2019. Maybe it was installed a year later in 2020. The furnace is a lot harder to tell how old it is, but you can tell if it's a modern furnace or not just by looking at it. I would also say, since first impressions are important, wipe down your water heater, wipe down your furnace, get some of that dust off of there. So when the appraiser flies in and flies out, they go, oh, that was a shiny furnace. Oh, that was a shiny water heater. Must have been in good shape,
Yep.
right?
They do. They care about their home. They take care of it.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And I always ask the people, and when I say always, that means 90% of the time, if I remember, is when I set the appointment, I'll say, Matt, when I see you on Saturday, will you compile a list between now and then, whenever you're thinking about it, of what maybe you did? Because, maybe you'll stop and think and go, oh yeah, you know what? we did update that bathroom, or no, we did have to replace that water heater or that furnace, or we had a new garage door, or, you know, we had sprinklers installed. You know, your house is 2 years old. Builders don't put in backyard landscaping, you know, generally speaking, right? You know, you all put in a good amount of landscaping back there and added a deck and different things. And, you know, so it's important to let them know what you've done, you know, recently, especially if you've only been in the house a couple of years and you've spent some money, so that they have an idea. You need to give them a justification for the condition of the property.
Yeah.
If you don't say anything, if you don't provide any information, they can only assume you've done nothing. Okay? So once you've done that, you don't have to follow the guy around, and you sort of get a feel for, you know, whether he or she is comfortable with you just shadowing them. I'm okay with people doing that because I pick up all sorts of extra information, you know, when they chat me up. I try not to chat people up. You know, I'm a pretty introverted kind of a guy, but when I spend more time with people, I get more information.
Yeah. Okay,
so they're toward the end. Once they have done a proper inspection, even measuring the outside of the house. Now, I'm old-fashioned. I use a tape measure on the outside, and I am also inspecting the siding and the brick and the concrete foundation, and I'm looking for problems. I'm looking to see if there's proper drainage. If the downspouts from your gutters are draining by your foundation, that's a problem. Well, at least it's a potential problem. You know, so, you know, it takes a little while to do a proper inspection. And if the appraiser's going too fast, feel free to slow them down and let them know. So, yeah, you know what, we put this and that in here, and we extended the downspouts so that the place has better drainage or whatever. And then there at the end, you say, you know, I've got some data here for you I'd like to share with you. Okay. And if they say, oh, well, I can do the research myself, I say, well, I'm sure you could, but, you know, that this is data that may be relevant, that maybe, you know, maybe would be helpful to you. Okay. And you never say, this one sold for 600 grand, this one sold for 500 grand. Don't mention dollars. Okay. but you find the best comps available, like you have a finished basement. So and you have a walkout basement. So those things typically add value. And in this market, I can almost guarantee you that they add value because they make the house more functional, increases its utility, its appeal. You know, if you've got a walkout basement, more lights coming in, you know, those kind of things. So yeah, you provide that kind of data, and you make sure he understands. And if they don't, and if it's a refinance situation, you know, you just make note of it. And in your situation, maybe you point out the obvious, like, yes, this is a 3-car garage. I use the third space to store bikes and garbage cans and other things, but I can put my truck in that spot. Yeah. That's a 3-car garage. Now, it may not be exactly the same as a 3-car wide garage, but you know what? It also depends on the market. Sometimes it makes a difference, sometimes it doesn't. So that's the kind of stuff you point out, those really important things that maybe they'll miss.
Well, and right, ultimately what we're hearing you say is that it's important to be prepared on the front end of it. And overall, a real estate appraiser is influenced by what they see. So if we're helping them to see what yes, we see, you know, the likelihood that they see it our way may increase. Sometimes it doesn't, right? This doesn't always work. It's not a 1 + 1 = 2 in this scenario, but it is for sure one person's opinion of what the price is at that one moment. So, you know, let's move forward, right, in this appraisal process. Let's say the appraisal came back, and I'm gonna pull up here my my appraisal So this was the appraisal that we had recently on our house, on our refinance. Um, for this. So as we walk through, there's going to be a picture of the outside of the house. There's going to be some data on the front as far as the address. Um, whoops. And I've got an error here with it. So sorry. Let me see if I can't pull this back up. Give me one moment.
Well, while you're figuring that out, I'll point out something that maybe is obvious, maybe it's not. Who's that? From the street, it looks like you've got a 2-car garage, right? But when you open the garage and you spend a couple of minutes in the garage looking around, you go, oh yeah, this is a 3-car garage. But if someone's in a hurry and they're not doing a very thorough job, they could miss that.
Yeah, without a doubt, can be missed. So, you know, to point those things out, and you'll see the appraiser missed it on this one. Okay, Kevin, can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I had to unplug my microphone to bring this back up, so just one moment. Let's see if technology's working with me now. Okay, so sorry, don't want to include all of the information there, but you'll see right there in the middle, there's the value that he determined. So this uniform residential appraisal report that we're looking at, you know, 30,000 foot view, not getting too deep into the weeds. What is the information here, and what do I need to know as a homeowner when I get this report back?
Well, the first part will give you the address, the legal description, the tax ID number, how much your taxes were, and that's fine. He's going to pull that up, and that's going to be fine. You want to make sure that down here in the improvement section that he notes that you've got a walkout basement, okay? Because not everybody does. The house across the street doesn't. Want to make sure he's got your square footage right. You know, wants to make sure that he shows a finished basement. So that's the information about the improvements or the house, okay? So want to make sure he's got a 3-car, not a 2-car garage. You know, those kind of things. And once you do that, the next page is your sales grid, okay? And the appraiser goes out and he chooses his best 3 or 4 sales typically, and hopefully gets some current listings. Now, current listings can be actives or pending sales. And right now, they're pending sales all over the place, okay? So if you got a brand new active in your neighborhood, you know, call the listing agent tomorrow, the next day, because maybe it went under contract.
Yeah.
You know, so pending sales are your best information. And up there at the top, it shows you either well, it will show you the close price, you know, the contract price for a closed sale. But on a pending or an active, it shows you the list price. Unless, of course, when you're calling to confirm information on a pending sale, the agent is able to share that information with you because they're closing tomorrow. Okay. And they're comfortable with that. But you know, if I don't know, or if they haven't given me a pretty good indication of what that contract price is, I leave the list price. But then below that, there's an opportunity for the appraiser to describe what happens. So when I call you to confirm a pending sale, you tell me, you go, hey, Kev, we were on the market 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we could have cut off all showings and offers on Saturday morning, but we let it continue to go, and we got 10 offers, and they're all way above asking, and here's what they broke down to be. There was one cash, a VA, FHA, but the rest of them were conventional, and here were the different terms of the contract, and they were significantly above asking price. Now, if I don't know exactly, I may leave that list price, but I'm going to say in the narrative part, going, you know what? demand is very strong, and this thing sold higher than the list price, even though I don't know exactly what it was. But what this tells us is that market conditions are very strong and the market is improving as we speak.
Yeah.
Okay? Because that's exactly what that's telling us. I don't believe that's what happened in your case.
Well, and we're looking at here, right? And you see verification source, you see listing agent here, and as we get into this report a little bit deeper, and we see the current pending sales, he indicated that he spoke to the listing agent, and yet there were no notes in there as to what the conversations were, and no indication as to the information I found when I called the listing agents directly to find that information out. So overall, this looks like a lot of information. It is relatively straightforward as we start breaking down. Yet, the column to the very left, right? We see what specifically they're talking about. When it comes to location, it's site is how big the lot is, right? Lot square footage.
That's true. And whether or not they make an adjustment or the market indicates that there's an adjustment isn't just about the size of the lot. Because you got a pie-shaped lot, right? So it comes down to the overall utility and appeal. So I've got a gal I work with. On paper, she's got a big lot, but she's got 5,000 square feet of that big lot that is basically 10 feet wide, and it's useless. Okay, but on paper it looks really great.
Yeah.
But that's why people go in and go, well, that looks like a small lot, and you go, no, we got another 10,000 feet there along the sidewalk. Well, that doesn't add any value. You don't care about that.
Yeah, useless square footage is not beneficial for value. So, right, when I look at the columns under the address, right, there's the details to the left, and then there's some number adjustments to the right. Now, this confuses most folks, but walk me through like this here, for example, condition. They gave this comp a C3 versus the C2 they indicated on the subject property, and gave $50,000 in there. What are they adjusting specifically?
Okay. The one thing that they did well when they redesigned this form a little bit after the mortgage crisis, a decade ago, is this C1, C2, all the way to C6. Now, C1, condition 1, is a brand new house. C2 is like new or remodeled or renovated. C3 is updated. So if you've got a house built in the 90s and you've got new flooring and new appliances, new countertops, that's updated. If you've got a house from the 50s and you've removed walls to open up the line of sight, you have more of an open floor pan. They totally redid the electric and the plumbing. They have everything new. That would be a C2 condition because it's like new. Okay. So that's pretty good. And that $50,000 that they did there, that was probably market derived by comparing it to other very similar homes. And what you should be doing is confirming it with the agents and saying, hey, Matt, what kind of condition was that property in? And you go, well, you know what? It was pretty nicely updated. We did this and that, but we didn't do all this other stuff because we didn't need to. You go, okay, so that conversation with you, I know it's C3. If I got a 1975 or 1980 home and it says, cozy and clean, I know it's not updated. It doesn't have Viking appliances. It doesn't have granite or quartz countertops. It doesn't have new flooring. So it's going to be a C4 condition, which means it's livable. It's nice. It's been pretty well maintained, but it certainly is not updated.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what drives value? The big question is, and you always ask yourself that it's not all, you can't assume, but in your neighborhood, bedrooms, baths, what kind of garage, and if you have an appealing or valuable view, which you have. I don't know how much additional value that adds, but without question, it adds value because every other property like that I've looked at in your neighborhood and in similar markets with such strong demand, the sellers are able to say, isn't this a great feature? And they go, yes. And they say, I want some more money for this. And if you won't pay it, I got 9 other guys waiting in line that will pay extra for that nice view because you don't have an additional neighbor back there, or it's just nice to sit there, on the deck, a nice covered deck, by the way, and enjoy a nice view in the afternoon and watch the sun go down and watch the birds and the airplanes and all that other kind of good stuff. Or you can sit on my deck and spill my drink on my neighbor because we're that close. Okay, I don't have a good view like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and so we look at this, right? They gave the condition of a C3, which is, updated but not like new. So the $50,000 was not adding value to the neighbor's home. Essentially, what the appraiser is saying is that there's $50,000 of an adjustment in my favor compared to where this one sold.
Well, yeah,
it's a little confusing. Most people see the positive and they say, well, they gave them more money for this and then they took away money for that. It's kind of flipped from what you would just logically think based on what they're doing. Because as we scroll down here, there's a net adjustment and then you have a gross adjustment, which would be, if we're just comparing these two, this is about where the comparison should lie for your value.
Yeah, that one looks, and it's a small copy, but correct me if I'm wrong. That one's pretty similar to yours. And
well, this is another home actually in a different neighborhood. One thing we have in common is we both have similar views, and it is a large lot. But you can see not very many adjustments from a dollar standpoint.
And it's also a walkout, so it looks like they made a size adjustment for the living area in the basement.
Right. So, we do see some inconsistencies here, right? In the value, we see the basement rooms below grade, right? So it's bedrooms, bathrooms. And we see kind of here, we've got the same bedroom and bathroom count here for the basement, yet they made a almost $5,000 negative adjustment. Inconsistencies in the report. And as we contest appraisals, it's better not to say you're wrong on your value, Mr. or Mrs. Appraiser. Let me tell you why you're wrong, right? It would be better to, do what we did in this scenario, which was, hey, in your own report, there are inconsistencies. And here, let's look at those inconsistencies.
Right. And actually, he didn't make an adjustment. I mean, you're looking at this going, okay, you got a rec room, you got a bedroom, you got a bathroom. That's true. But if you look at that second number, he has more finished space than you have. Mm-hmm. So maybe his rec room is bigger than you. And so to have a bigger rec room, maybe that's worth another $4,000 or $5,000. Okay. So that's where that comes in. But some of these guys just do it. They're doing math. And I would check with the agent and say, well, how much extra value did you get for that extra finished space? And what was that extra finished space? Because you got that storage room, right? Mm-hmm. And just because you don't have carpet or flooring in there, I mean, what is a storage room supposed to look like?
Storage.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's concrete. I don't care if it's cluttered. I don't care much about it as long as my boxes stay dry and
your water heater and your furnace are in there. So,
right.
That may be a little bit of a gray area, but I think they made bigger mistakes than just that.
And I think we'll continue on. Again, you see down here where the appraised value is. Now we're drawing a blank here on your pages again. So
hey, Matt.
Yes, sir.
Matt, go back up to the first page into the neighborhood section, which is under your address. Site, okay, above the site, okay? Now, okay, pause. Okay, right there in the middle where it says, well, I can't point to it says increasing, stable, or decreasing, right? And,
Yep.
and it says stable. Okay, and what that's talking about are market conditions. And are the market conditions in your market, are they stable, decreasing, or increasing? And this person made a mistake because they ran through it too fast and they said, oh, it's stable.
Yeah.
There's no improvement in that market. But when you look at the market condition addendum and you look at those pending sales, they absolutely say that, yeah, this is a seller's market and it's improving.
Yeah, so
Okay.
let's
So
pull that
that's
up. I want to jump to that one here specifically. So, okay, here we go.
which one you pulling up? That addendum?
Yeah, so I want to pull up the 1004 MC report. Now, this is, as a real estate agent, if you're not familiar with how to pull this one up, reach out, give me a call, let you know. If you're a homeowner and you need this for an appraisal, let me know. Again, we can pull this information as we look at the market conditions addendum report, and that's what we've got here in front of us. So, again, to his report, he notes specifically that the market is stable. I think anybody that's been paying attention to the videos that I've been doing with Brenna, our market update, we're seeing a rapid increase in values across the board. Now, neighborhoods might not be seeing it yet. Just on initial glance, this doesn't seem to be correct, and doesn't seem to be correct with the conversation I had with the listing agents when I called, and the real estate appraiser didn't actually make those phone calls, right? Because he would have known we're not looking at a stable market here.
Okay, can I point something out, Matt?
Yes.
Okay, that first column there to the left, that's the first 6 months in the past year. So I believe it goes from 7 to
12.
Okay, 7 to 12. Okay, and there's some number there, 498 maybe. So it's less than 500 grand, right?
Yeah. So the median comparable sales price right here.
Yeah, that one.
498, 950. We'll call it 499.
Okay, now look at the middle column. What is that number?
That's 550.
And then look at the next column next to that.
551.
Okay, so if you compare the two columns, the past 6 months or the current period, and the first 6 months, a year ago kind of a thing, there has been a 10% increase in the market conditions or in value based on a bunch of sales. Almost, say it was a 10, 20, 47 sales. That's a pretty good little sample group. And without question, this data says, yes, the market has improved. However, this appraiser said, nope, it's stable. It's not stable. And when you compare it to the confirmed data of those pending sales, which you did, because you're a smart guy, you listen, you listen to me.
I'm well coached.
Yes. Well, you do well on your own anyhow. But all the agents are telling you, yeah, we had multiple offers and people are spending a lot of money and the market's really improving. So those are two different indicators right there. And that's where the big problem was. The other stuff, the sort of the mechanics of going down and adjusting each sale for square footage or bedrooms or bathrooms, that's minor stuff, relatively speaking. The big bugaboo here is that this appraiser had his head in the sand and said, oh yeah, we're in a very calm market. Nothing's happening. Nothing to see here. Go away. Well, all the other data says, yes, things are going on very well, nicely. And so it looks like generally, just looking at this, there might have been as much as a 10% increase. Now, maybe you can't attribute all of that to the increase in value, but we're pointing direction without question. Anybody, any reviewer that looks at this and says, "Oh no, that market's improving," you checked the wrong box. But apparently, you challenged that, and the guy refused to acknowledge that.
Well, kind of a long story. That ended up not being a big deal. Is I took this personally, right? As I'm sure many homeowners do. And if we're looking at current 3 months to previous 3 months, a $1,000 increase in value, you would say is a stable market. But again, if I'm only looking at the market this way with one eye open and disregarding the previous 6 months, well, that's not a fair assessment as to what's going on. So it's
Right.
not to say that we only look at this data or we only look at that data. You and I have had these conversations. You have to look at the entire picture as it goes as a whole instead of just the data that you want to show.
That's exactly right. And I see my job as not only, as you say, interpreting the market. I like to report on, we have certain standards on reporting. So I report on the condition of the subject of the house, right? And those improvements, the condition of the neighborhood, the condition of the surrounding market, and all those things come into play. So if someone comes in, and let's say we got 10 someones that come in, are willing to pay a premium or an apparent premium for a property, you got to ask yourself why. If one guy did it and the 9 others are back near your list price, what does that tell you? It tells you that the other 9 people were probably right, and the other guy either was moving in and he didn't, and his wife was putting pressure on him, or he just liked, but he was an anomaly, right? Or a blip. He wasn't, your best indicator. But without question, this market, at least for the last 2, if not 3 months, has been moving very well, and it started early. Basically, they took the time off from Thanksgiving through New Year's, and it started up the end of January and definitely the beginning of February in most of these submarkets. And the data right there within the report tells you that. Now, fortunately for you, the only thing that the homeowner cares about is, will my deal work? And I understand that. I've been there. And as it turned out, you didn't necessarily need a quality appraisal. It was adequate. And it probably wasn't worth chasing this guy, because this guy he was too busy and he didn't want to argue with it.
Yeah, and it's unfortunately for some homeowners, this does make a difference on whether or not they can do their deal, even on the refinance, right? So if they're going to do the refinance to pull cash out, or they're going to drop mortgage insurance, or they're going to lower their rate and have the best of rates, right? Those loan to value marks really make a big impact. So this has an impact for folks, and attention to detail, right? The other piece we did with this appraisal, which again, if we're contesting the value of, is there were very relevant properties, very relevant comparable properties that were not included in the property into the appraisal, right? So when we are contesting value, it's, hey, we want you to consider this home as well, and here's the factors. In our case, it's the exact same square footage, it's the exact same bedroom count, because it's the same floor plan with similar views. But the appraiser missed it because it was listed in the Northern Colorado multiple listing service versus the Denver metro. So, we get this conversation often with clients that we're working on, and appraisers are human, right? We know that humans are flawed. As much as we want to put a lot of weight and merit to the appraised value, the reality of it is, if we hire 3 appraisers, we may come up with 3 different values.
Yep.
And I've got a friend of mine that years ago when the market was shifting, right, had to sell her parents' property and had three appraisers that came out. One appraised the property at 500,000, one appraised it at a million, and one appraised it at $1.5 million.
Really?
And it sold, if I remember correctly from the story, I think it sold for about 850. So again, shouldn't have that big of variation in it, yet these things happen. So, right, if you get an appraisal that you're concerned about, right, let's walk through what is it that exactly we need to do. And one, we're going to look at the report and see where there are inconsistencies.
Yes.
What have they indicated maybe that they got wrong? In our case, they clearly gave us value for a 2-car garage when we had a 3-car, because it's it's too wide, it's tandem. I could put all 3 cars in there. It's just not 3 wide, right? When we look at value around view and the location of the property, some of the comparable properties, he gave same value for the lot, even though most of their lot was not usable,
Right.
or backed up to a busier road, right? Versus a creek and some other things, right? So when we talk about value, what drives value? What's real estate 101, Kevin? It's location, location, location,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we kind of wrap up the contesting values, what kind of final nugget would you like to leave us with?
Okay. The nugget I'm going to give you here is verbiage. Do not say we're contesting value. Okay. What you're doing is contesting the results of the appraisal and possibly the quality of the data that was included. Maybe he missed a sale. Okay. And that wasn't the case here. It looked like, the sales data he included was probably among the best data available. But where they really missed it, besides the garage, is totally missed market condition. And there were 2 very strong indicators, that 1004 MC, right, that addendum, and the current pending sales, which are great indicators. And when your agent calls to confirm that information, if you're a homeowner, you may not want to do it yourself. You call me, you call Matt, you call Sarah, you call some of those folks, and you say, hey, would you do this for me? And yeah, you call, you have a conversation, and you say, what was the basement like? What was your view like? Did backing up to that busy road, did that affect value? And maybe they'll say, you know what, Matt, I thought it would, but in the current market we're in, it didn't affect value. So be very careful when you talk to your lender. And if you're writing an email, you say, I don't agree with value. Don't say that. Okay. Say, I contest these things within the report, and that basically the veracity of the report or the quality of the data, that kind of thing. And we could even forget about the garage, and we could forget about some nitpicky little things, and let's say nickel and dime. But the big thing that was glaring as a big hole in the side of a building was that market condition where they said it was stable, and without question, it was not stable. Yeah. They made a mistake. And let me tell you something. As you know, if you make a mistake, it's always smart to claim and go, yeah, my bad, my foul, let me go back. I made a mistake, and I'm not trying to be funny, about 2 years ago. And I missed these 2 sales. Mm-hmm. And it was because I didn't do something correct with that Northern Colorado IRIS system. It was a little different than the RE Colorado system. And the lady contacted not only the lender, but me, and said, how about these 2 sales? And I said, well, I'll take a look at them. So I called the lender back, and I said, because I'm not answerable to the homeowner. I'm answerable to my client, who's the lender. Right. And I said, you know what? I missed it. I don't know how I missed it, but I did. And those 2 sales should be included. And I said I'd be happy to, to consider those and to make the necessary corrections. I was happy, and as it turned out, the lady was right, and she never once said. She must have listened to your, to your blog here. That you don't contest it that way. Now, did it affect value? Yeah, it affected value, but more importantly, that was the right data. And I made a mistake, and I try not to make those mistakes. So I take extra time because I want to make sure I do it right. And so I only make big mistakes once in a while. I mean, just because. And I get people to check stuff out, and if you're methodical, but I do not put my ego there. And someone had their ego involved in your case. But so that nugget is, we're not contesting value, we're contesting the results of the appraisal, and this is why. So don't talk dollars, don't say value, don't say price, because that's the wrong way to approach it. It's against the rules, so to speak. Okay, and so and for those who are your clients or past clients, and I know that you've got some people who are refinancing a house that you helped them buy a couple of years ago, and they say, Matt, I need some help prepping for this, or I need some help after the fact. Well, you do your homework ahead of time, and then you review it and say, you know what, we reviewed this, and I know it's not what you wanted, but this looks pretty good. It's pretty well supported. It makes sense. Mm-hmm. So it is what it is. So what else do we do? So I'm not able to pull as much cash out as I'd like, but I'm still able to get a better rate, and that's just what it is. Yeah. So when they talk to you ahead of time and do their homework, they get a pretty idea of what that market is, and they're as well informed as the appraiser or anybody else. So that's that, I think that's the bottom line.
Well, and right to that point, if we can wait sometimes an extra 30 days, the market may move, and now we have the lagging indicators that support the numbers that we believed all the time, because we've got new homes coming on the market every day. We've got new stuff that goes pending and stuff that closes, right? So things are moving very fast. Right? If you've got questions about an appraisal coming up and you want me to go through what does the value look like for that home, what information might we want to provide to the appraiser, reach out, connect with me, let me know. If you want to connect with Kevin specifically, reach out again to me, and I'll connect you to Kevin. That way I can not bombard you with a bunch of angry real estate agents who might be mad at all appraisers, right? We'll just kind of control a little bit of that information. But and Kevin, I know you help so many other real estate agents. It's not just me. Always willing to pick up the phone, always willing to have a conversation. So on behalf of all of the real estate agents that go to you for that, really want to thank you, because that resource is incredibly valuable, and we really appreciate your time and appreciate your time, right, that you've shared with us here on this episode, as we talk about contesting the veracity of the
there you go.
The information provided in an appraisal report as it might pertain to value.
Well, Matt, I'm very happy to help anybody anywhere I can, but it's also a very good business decision on my part, because back when I was just a pup in real estate, back in the last century, I learned some important lessons from some mentors that said free flow of information. Sure, share this information. And this was on commercial properties like a McDonald's or a warehouse or all sorts of stuff like that. So I really depend on talking with the agents, the listing agents, and occasionally the buyer's agent, and say, hey, what drove value? And then they start talking. And because you agents love to talk about your successes and about your properties, and I just listen, and that confirms, because I'll look at something and go, that doesn't make sense. is that data correct, or is there something I'm missing? And then they tell me, they go, oh yeah, this was fabulous. And here's a great example, and I'll finish. Last year when this pandemic thing started, things shifted as far as what affects value. I was talking with a really good agent down in Highlands Ranch, and he said, you know what? That big deck we have outside, that big backyard, that usable backyard, that brought us another 5% because people were locked up. They were staying at home. They needed extra living space, either out on the deck or an extra bedroom in the basement, an extra office. Things change. Okay, so my trainees really hate it when I tell them, and some of the realtors don't like it when they ask a question, and my answer is, well, it depends, right? What's going on? So I could not do my job without being able to talk to you and the other agents that are so generous with their time, either on the phone or just texting to confirm information, because the data in the MLS is not enough, especially in a market like we're in. So call anytime. You filter out those mean and angry people, and you send me all the nice folks.
Yeah, we'll do that. Well, again, thank you so much, and for the folks that have been watching and tuning in, if you've got specific questions, let me know. If there's content that you want us to deliver here for future episodes, shoot me that email. I always appreciate hearing from everybody. So again, Kevin, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I'm sure we'll see you again here at family dinner sometime.
Okay, sounds good. It's your turn to buy.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kevin.
See you, Matt.
All right. Bye.